My time with the Begode Master that eWheel sent me for testing was cut short, so I traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada and Orange County, California to speak with real-world master riders to get their first-hand impressions on what many are hoping to be the best high-powered suspension EUC on the market. Oh, and spoiler alert, out of the box, the Master is lacking.
I hated it when I freaking got the thing.
However, with a few key upgrades and modifications like what we are about to see, and you will love this personalized, high-performance suspension EUC. So let's start off in Orange County, California to pester Roger at his family business to see what changes he's made to his Master and why he did them.
Wow, that sounded way better than...
Instead of that clunk, you would normally hear that clunk.
So if I stick this switch in the middle, it feels like the stock suspension. You stick it over here, it's even faster compression than the stock. I leave it over here. And I also have it pumped up to 390 PSI right now.
Whoa, that's
I had
the secret.
to buy a special pump to make that happen. So you'll notice when I get on it, the suspension doesn't even drop. So you're supposed to set it up with a 25 to 33% sag. I'm okay having the extra compression travel.
It's the first one that we've seen with the new Clark bumpers. Tell us what you think of them.
Makes it a lot easier to set up your pads the right way. Also makes me less nervous to crash the thing because the batteries are protected. Yeah. I've still seen a couple of these things crash and they sort of shatter up at the front, but shattering up at the front, repairable. Bursting into flames, a little less repairable.
He has the suspension pumped up to 390. If you've seen our prior video using the stock pump, just trying to get it to 250 was a struggle.
The stock pump, by the way, that came with it, I was able to put it into 300 PSI.
Okay.
So watching your video, I was laughing at you guys. No offense. Yeah. But so I bought a RockShox brand pump off of Amazon. It cost something like 23 bucks and it actually goes up to 600 PSI. RockShox, that's the enlarged volume RockShox, which is able to take more pressure. I'm no suspension expert, but I play one on TV.
How do you get this pumped up?
You can't. You have to actually loosen the screws.
Yes, to loosen these screws, drop the suspension out to pump it because there's no clearance there. This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, what do you think?
On it. It's 100% better. The previous suspension was just awful on this thing.
It was a joke. I mean, I don't know how they could have let it leave the factory like that. Going down a sidewalk and hitting a pebble, it's perfect for that. But for really riding, for things, just going down the sidewalk here, the little dips are, when I had these old suspension, I think I was going maybe 15 miles an hour and it clanked and the handle popped up.
Well, I also noticed that your tail light is out.
Which is funny because I did 0 damage to this wheel, but the tail light broke in the trunk of my car on the way to ride.
This is what I imagine the wheel should feel like. So much better. Like, you need stiffer suspension.
Yeah, the creaking I can live with now, but I'm sure that's my own fault.
Oh!
How is it?
¡Qué bueno!
Woo! Yeah, this is way better.
It's usable, isn't it?
You can go 60?
I have not gone 60, but I think maybe I'm not going to try after all the horror stories. The problem with this wheel as opposed to the Sherman is there's no additional feedback. So on the Sherman, you start beeping, and you go faster and the beep changes.
Yeah.
It changes twice. This started beeping, and I pushed a little further, and no difference in the beep. I slowed down. So
mine was a consistent beep, 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 beep.
That's all it does, just beep, beep, beep.
What's your top 3 things you love about this wheel?
Well, I like the overhead where I can push through, go fast. I like the suspension, especially on the downhills now. I hated it when I freaking got the thing because it just clank, 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 and this thing kept firing up into the space between my legs.
Oh, there it is.
Third thing I like about it is, I don't know, I've got to say the seat feels good. I can really crouch down and get my butt just like hovering over the seat, torque down with a little lean, and then just plop down when I feel like it.
What's the 3 things you hate most about it?
That I had to do so much to make it worthwhile. I had to add the pads, which not that big a deal. I think I'm gonna end up doing the same thing on the S22. And the tire, I'm not a guy that really complains about tires, but I didn't like that tire. So it just felt weird, and it felt like I was affected more by crosswinds and everything. It just wasn't so comfortable. So now this one feels good. I've taken it to multiple black diamond trails and done just fine with it.
It's definitely the best upgrades I've seen on a Master.
All for functionality.
Oh, there you go.
Now off to Las Vegas to see what sorcery Law's done with his Begode Master.
It's soft enough to be nice, but then the problem is it bottoms out pretty easily.
Yeah.
These lights are near useless.
Yeah.
They shine like straight forward.
Yeah, they don't get your ground.
Yeah, they don't really cover the ground.
You can pivot it, though.
You can pivot, but like that much.
Okay, and there's a screw underneath.
Right. Yeah. There's 2 screws on the side to tighten up. They're like 2 sets of screws. You tighten that down, and then that's it. But again, when it's like a really weird throw, like
2 forward.
yeah,
and then
2
like
forward, 1 2 are like
lines,
wide, but then
lines.
it's questionable.
And then you changed the tire.
I did. It's the IRC NR77. Yeah, there's not enough tires. These are all the tires. These are the tires that Las Vegas doesn't really want. You see these edges, you end up looking at these. Riding straight's fine. Maybe like 5 degrees, or like maybe 5 degrees, and up until like maybe 30 degrees, it feels kind of miserable because you feel like you're drifting.
Yeah.
And then the wheel wants to put itself on the next knob.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the next knob, it's fine again, but then you go deeper again, then you start feeling all the extra wobble.
Yeah, see what Law just explained was what I was trying to explain in my Begode Hero video. I couldn't explain it, but it just felt like the wheel wanted to drift a little bit to the side.
That's why my buddy wanted a knobby, so then we ended up recommending the Shinko 244. Yeah, the gaps are different. So you have sideways gaps, but at the same time, when you're tracking, you don't have any like completely open areas where the tire is gonna like fall into and then start like drifting out. And if you're trying to like race or like really like corner, then you want something that's more like flush all around, just like this thing. Or some people use like the H666. That one's it's like a little bit more diamond-esque tip, so then it feels a little bit more locked in. But this one, it's great for cornering. Okay. I use the same thing on my EXN, and then that thing corners beautifully.
EUC tire 101 with the Professor. Right off the bat, this trolley handle, I do appreciate that it's in the middle. Thanks, guys. The silly business about having the trolley handle in the front or in the back or off to the side. Let's just stop that. Law's been working on this wheel. If you haven't checked out Law's channel, I have a link down below. He's modified this wheel. The pad placement, these are the Grizzla pads.
Both Roger and Law swapped out the tires and changed the pad setup. Roger also upgraded the suspension and added a Clark pad bumper system. All these upgrades take time, energy, and money, and some enthusiasts love being able to customize, upgrade, and completely personalize the ride to their liking. My take-home points regarding ownership of the Master EUC: out of the box, it's a decent wheel. But if you're willing to put in some tender loving care and money for some upgrades and modifications, the Master can become the amazing personalized suspension EUC you've been waiting for. On one hand, it's kind of a shame that such a high-end and high-cost device out of the box needs so many modifications and upgrades to fully enjoy it. On the other hand, it reminds me of my young adulthood when, after buying a car, the first thing we did was replace the trash stereo system, tint the windows, and, if we were really serious, we'd put on a spoiler, upgrade the wheels and exhaust, customize the paint, and do all sorts of things to the interior. And while I still believe that for this price the Master should come with premium adjustable suspension, a better headlight, a more durable taillight, better protection for the batteries, and a clean slate for attaching customized pads, for those that like to tinker, the Master is easy to take apart and easy to upgrade and modify.
How is it seated for you?
Seated is great. So, I like the curvature of the S20 seat a little bit more, but having the better weight distribution of the Master makes it nice, because when you're throwing it around, you don't feel like the wheel's just gonna disappear underneath you. But then again, that could be a factor of having the knobby tire versus a street tire. So there's so many different factors that can go into it. I'll try the S20 eventually, or S22 now.
Yeah.
But I'll try that eventually and then give a real comparison between the two. But overall, this thing is a great seated experience.
I think we can all agree that the hobby of electric unicycles is not cheap, but is upgrading the already expensive Begode Master worth it? Share why or why not in the comments. Thanks for watching, and when you ride, remember to wear your safety gear.